So the vulnerability of African economies amid global risks has come into sharp focus at the 2023 World Economic Forum. That's as the impact of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has exacerbated food insecurity in the region. Our business anchor, Tumisang Ndlovu, is live to us from Davos once again this Thursday morning. Tumisang, great to see you. How has the impact of global issues on the African continent been described?
So, Michelle, one of the biggest concerns that has emerged out of WEF 2023 in this regard is that over the past 2 years, African countries have seen staple foods go up by an average of 20%. And the reason behind that is the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, the two countries are a major supplier of staple foods such as soy as well as wheat. And with prices increasing, that also ticks up inflation in African countries. But what has also been discussed is that how does then Africa circumvent around that? Because there is land in most of the countries in this region. What is not available is the implementation of cultivation of food. And again, it goes to the calls that have historically been made around localization. And that's where most of the discussions have centered around in terms of how African countries can produce their own food without the reliance of interferences that may come into the system, as we have seen with the likes of Russia and Ukraine.
So that what you've just mentioned is, I suppose, what delegates are deliberating on in the discussion insofar as moving Africa forward as part of this global effort in response to this kind of crisis.
Absolutely. And another discussion that speaks to moving Africa forward is the existence and richness of the likes of lithium. That has become a big discussion because the rest of the world is in need of lithium for battery producing. And that is an opportunity that has been identified as an accelerator of trade as well as a boost to economic activity that is going to then be a positive on the side of the African region. Also, the free trade agreement has gone in a boost in terms of global leaders backing and financially backing the efforts of the free trade agreement. There is a body called the Friends of the African Free Trade Agreement, which essentially is a body that fosters trade within African countries to ensure that that particular trade stays and fuels economic empowerment within the African region. Sub-Saharan Africa is the biggest concern when it comes to an economic growth. After the harsh impact of COVID-19, African countries were starting to see accelerated growth. Unfortunately, that has been stemmed by the dynamics of the global economy and this looming recession, and discussions here at WEF 2023 have now gone back to how African countries can be cushioned against that global recession that is looming, Michelle.
The discussions around food insecurity are not far from home for us, Tumisang, either, as we deal with those challenges insofar as load shedding is concerned. The agriculture sector here at home talking about the massive strain that they're under because of the hours-long power cuts.
Absolutely. I mean, the agricultural sector in South Africa has seen the worst of the impact of load shedding, as well as the rise in the cost of fuel. Farms are essentially operated on machinery that uses diesel, and diesel right now is at its highest level. Going back to load shedding, there's a serious concern that we even saw on the side of poultry producers. One of the biggest poultry producers in South Africa being Astral Foods, not being able to meet demand, and that's when we saw some of the most popular food outlets and food chains not being able to supply even chicken. That is just a few examples of how load shedding is affecting the business industry, in particular agriculture as well as poultry producing.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these important discussions also happening at the World Economic Forum. Live to us there in Davos is our business anchor, Tumisang Ndlovu.